happened. You walked out of the podcast, I guess, while I was gone.
Oh, yeah, I absolutely did.
Let's talk about it real quick. What happened? Proximity is power. So it's like everywhere we'd go, it's a different level of person. Like most of the people that were there, like, you know, one guy I got to know sold his insurance company for a few $100 million. And so it was like, we were talking about that exit and like what that looked like for him. And,
how did Wiggins find this place?
On accident, evidently. I asked him that. He was in Idaho for some other reason, and he ran into somebody that he knew, and he's like, "Oh, are you going to Gaza?" And he's like, "No, what's that?" And
even the name sounds...
It's somebody's last name. John Gazer, I think, or Gozer. I don't even fucking G-O-Z-Z-Z-E-R. But, like, Sean Payton has a house there. A coach, NFL coach. He was there while we were there.
What are you doing?
He's taking a year off. Zach Wilson, he's in his second year playing for the Jets, in the off season was there with his teammates throwing the ball. Wow. That's where he got into all that. He was talking shit on social media. But it's just like, it's a place where people can go who don't want like to be fucked with and can like have fun and enjoy themselves. And they're like, it's a big, beautiful community, and you have a house, and the houses are gorgeous, and then you're in this big community that has like restaurants and has this really cool tree bar, and you're on the lake, and there's just a shit ton of things to do, but it's
all gated.
It's all gated. You can't get into it, and there's great security. But then when you're in there, it's like there's bars everywhere, there's restaurants everywhere.
Fun.
There's a sushi bar there that was like some of the best fucking sushi I've ever had, and it's all part of the membership.
Gazer Ranch Golf.
That is very cool.
Wow.
It's a different level.
Yeah. It's like it like made me. I was like, okay, it helped me see. There's another level. Like it's just to own a place there is for somebody who has fuck you money that wants to get away and have fun with their family and not be fucked with.
Yeah.
How long has John had his house there?
This is his second year.
Nice.
But now they go up there in May, and they're basically there from May until the kids go back to school. It's an interesting thing because you really can only utilize it 4 or 5 months out of the year. You could live up there year round.
Does it snow?
Because it's snowing. Or
well, all the staff leaves. They cycle, so they're like, I'm like, fuck. That's probably what I should have done when I was in my early 20s. Like
seasonal work like that.
Well, like they run around and wake surf, wakeboard, and snowboard, right? Because they follow the clubs. So that's what they're doing on their off time. When they're there, they're servicing and networking with some of the most successful people in the world. So I'm like, that's
so smart,
brilliant. So you're getting the best of both worlds. And anyway, so got to know the staff everyone I met was really, really cool.
But I bet it's pretty strict.
Very
to get employed in there.
Strict, and like they have certain way. They're very strict on how they can
communicate with others.
Yeah, or engage. And like there's a very like you can't like they can't have their phones on them. They can't take pictures unless the person says, you know, take a picture of me or something like that.
Interesting. That's cool.
Very cool.
But so the first part of the trip, to ask how I got there, GP was like, "Hey, I want to take you to the Seattle-Denver game." I was like, "Fuck yeah!"
Is he a Denver?
No, he's a Rams fan.
Oh,
but he knows I'm a massive.
Right.
He knows I'm a massive Seattle fan. So he's like, "Let's do that. I want to celebrate.
Nice.
I want to celebrate your promotion." It's like, "Yeah, fuck."
Are you as much of a Seattle Seahawk fan as Gary Vee is of a Jets fan?
I'm probably more. Is he as vocal about his Jets fandom as I am about my Hawks fandom?
Pretty sure.
I feel like yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he is.
I mean,
he wants to continue to buy them.
Yeah.
Well, he kind of went back and forth. He said, "Now I don't know if I want to buy them because the whole thing was in the journey of getting there." And he was like, "Now I can buy them. I don't know that I want to."
He said that?
He said that a couple times. I just don't know what his sentiment is now.
He can buy them now?
Well, he said something along those lines of like, "I don't know that I actually want to buy them anymore."
Has Gary ever posted a video like this?
Yeah. Yes.
That's my friend.
To be clear,
Scary.
there was no alcohol or
Bear Bear.
drugs in the filming of this expression. I've never seen him get that great. It's almost like, I thought about this on the drive to the ranch. I was like, and I've thought about this before because
Oh, you guys drove from.
we flew from Seattle to Spokane,
okay.
and then from Spokane it's an hour in.
To Idaho.
But like Teddy and I were texting after the game. Like I laughed. I laughed. I cried. I'm like, how does I'm an emotional person, and I cry, not every day, but I cry pretty regularly. I get teared up pretty regularly. Like it's not an uncommon thing. But like I'm here to do a different kind of work. So how is it that a sports team
Makes you feel
has
way.
this much impact on me? And I was like reflecting on this, like what is this? Because like I felt for Russell. I thought about the last 10 years that we've had together as if he's my fucking
We were all
boyfriend.
there for that in
Right?
Winter Park,
Yeah,
Colorado.
yeah, and we were all together when he broke up with us, and it literally I felt sick to my stomach. So then Teddy and I were talking about it, and he's like I just shared this with my family, and he wrote this beautiful few paragraphs reflecting over the last 10 years as a Seahawks fan with Russell. But it was like this. Then I called Joel, and he's crying, and we're crying. We're happy that we beat his ass. And I'm like, then part of me steps back, and I go, I guess I'm just really embracing humanity. But this that doesn't. I'm like, what is and there is deeper energetic things that would be hard for me to explain in ways that make a whole lot of sense that align with the Hawks, but it's a big energy for me. And like they were all laughing. They're like, you're normally a big energy guy, but like this is fucking crazy. Like I lost my voice. I'm screaming. I'm yelling. Again, no alcohol, no drugs. And like they're like, where does this come from? I'm
Have
like,
you been on the sidelines like that before?
That's the best seats I've ever had
Yeah.
for a regular season game.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Normally when I go,
The Super Bowl.
yeah, Super Bowls, they've all been. I actually like, interesting full disclosure, I loved those seats, and I will probably just start sitting there now. It's like, when you don't know what you don't know, you're like, yeah, it's fine. And then once you get it, you're like, just like you could yell at the players, they're yelling back. Like, I'm jumping up and down. Nuasu gets on the bench, he's jumping up and down at me. And like,
You're like, you see me.
Do you watch
I've
baseball too?
seen it.
no. I only watch football.
Yeah.
Thank God. If I was like a hardcore sports guy where I watched
Yeah.
sports 12 months a year, I'd be fucked. Literally is.
Thank God I'm not a hardcore sports guy.
Baseball's not the same.
No, hell no.
It's
no,
not the
no offense
same.
to baseball, but it's like 183 games of the same highlight. Like if you watch
100%.
like when you go to Sports Center in the summer is just shit. Which I don't watch Sports Center, but if like it's just the same highlight over and over. And I guess if you're a baseball fan,
It's
you'd be
great.
like, "Oh my God, that was amazing!" I'm like, "Yeah, that's the same highlight. I just watched that from the." Like, yeah.
Trying to give him my sound effects.
Right? Thank you. So it's only football. And then I grow my beard out during the football season until the Seahawks are eliminated from playoff contention. So now my beard begins to grow.
It won't grow that very.
We'll see.
Oh,
how
it
much
it
we'll
Have
see.
you
does.
seen, haven't you seen his beard?
Last year,
I think he's
this
slighting
year.
the Hawks more than the
your
fact that my beard can
Got
grow.
it. Bah, ha, ha, ha.
But yeah, I am
I hope that
in.
doesn't hurt your heart.
There is an energetic attachment to the Hawks.
Yeah.
And I would love to buy, but to Gary's point, it's kind of the same thing. Like put myself in a position to buy the Hawks. That's the same thing. It's like I would love to own the Seahawks. That would be, but I couldn't do this all the time because it's hard to justify because there is a lot of like energy that goes into being a Hawks fan.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's only the Hawks. There is no other sport that I care about to any degree. Just this time of year is great.
Yes.
And the Bears got a win. That was exciting.
It was so funny on the call yesterday. Brendan was like, "There's a lot of happy people on this call today," and I was like, "Yes, the first win."
Yeah, there's a
They were
handful of-
great games this weekend, but I feel like
Probably
it tends to be always that first
I
game.
don't know. This was you're right. You're excited for week one, but there was like 4 games that went to overtime. There was 7 games that were decided by less than 3 points.
Do you get crazy during Bears games yourself?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you
Yes.
as much of a fan of the Bears as Sabs is of
Yes.
the Seahawks?
And this
Oh,
is why we
Yes.
get along. There's a bonding there.
Yeah.
And then that game was crazy. It was like I heard Roquan Smith feel like it was like being a
The
kid.
amount of rain.
Yeah, they were just
I
like
was like,
sliding and
I had to give him like, I was like, okay, thank God we are ahead because it's not easy right now catching the ball, throwing the ball in this rain. It was ridiculous.
And that generally plays to San Francisco's strength because
Right.
they like to run the ball and ground and pound. We play San Francisco this week in San Francisco, so I'm excited. I think we're gonna have
I
another.
think I'm more of a fan of individual players than actual teams.
Sure.
Like if I had to pick a team, I would pick the Rams. But I'm more of a fan of like Tom Brady, for example, like his story.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so I play fantasy football, and that is always conflicting because
Right.
you become fans of players, and I'm like, so like I had
You feel
So I had
disloyal?
Russell Wilson going on one of my teams only because I couldn't trade him before the season started. I won't have him on any of my teams going forward, but
Disclaimer.
yeah, I couldn't get a suitor to trade him. So but I didn't give a fuck. I was like, I don't care if he gets -5 points. I want my Hawks to win. So it's like I care about the players right up until it messes with my team, and then if it's with my team, I'm like, no, like my team comes first. But I like individual players too, and I have a lot of fun with that. I think it's a fun, and it's such a brutal sport. It's a chess match. Like that's what I love about football. It's really a big game of chess, which I love
It is
chess.
absolutely. Actually, in fact, when you get drafted into the NFL, you have to take an IQ test. It's called the Wonderlic.
Oh yeah, you're right. You do take the Wonderlic.
Yeah, you have to take the Wonderlic, which is crazy, but it's a very intelligent game. So of course they're gonna. I mean, it kind of messed up for them to do that a little bit, but
I don't think that's.
A determining factor.
Determining factor.
I think certainly it plays a factor for sure. Like as a quarterback, you definitely have to have a higher intelligence.
Yeah, but like a
Lineman.
An average.
Linebacker still requires, I think, intelligence because you have to identify safety. Probably safety requires the most intelligence because you kind of have to lead the rest of it.
Speaking of safeties, Jamal Adams. I love him as a player. He's like a badger, and he plays all over. But he's never healthy. We got him from the Jets. We got him for 2 first-round draft picks, and then gave him a big contract. He's never on the field. Second way through the second quarter, he was sacking Russell and tore the tendon off his knee that connected his quad. It was like he's out for the season.
Oh.
And like that, the recovery on that is going to be like.
A few years.
Football is it's brutal, but I love the chess match of it. And this was obviously a big one for us because this was Russ coming back into our stadium after breaking up with us, and and the win. It was the Hawks. The fans are always amazing. The 12 is an amazing part of what makes the Seahawks the Seahawks. But it was very rewarding to see that game go the way it did. Anyway,
Very interesting sport for sure. A lot of activity.
and
different-
thank God it's only once a week.
Yeah.
Más o menos. It's
Más o
Thursday night
menos.
football.
Sunday
now.
night football, Monday night football.
Thursday
But, like,
night football.
It's pretty much all played on Sunday, right? It was Thursday night football, Monday. But like, it would be a big problem if there was games every night.
Right.
I don't think I could get into it the same way because like I don't have the time. But since it's Sunday and Sundays are usually a rest day for me anyway, or at least half a day of rest, I'm like, all right, like it's a good time.
I stay away from video games for that exact reason because if I started playing video games, I literally play it like 24/7.
Know thyself. I get it.
I
I'm
stay away.
excited.
Like I don't play video games at all. Like I have to stay away. It's like heroin to me. Like,
I love video games.
I get so addicted, and that my quality of life would lessen if I were to even play one video game. If I played like Halo or something, or Call of Duty. I have played Call of Duty, and like my wife started complaining about it, so I deleted it. I still have it.
The
And
new,
I love
the
Call of
new one
Duty.
comes out in November, and I'm looking forward to it.
It's so fun.
I just play it like ever since I was a kid. Like growing up in Washington, in the summer it would stay light to almost 10 o'clock at night, which is crazy to think about. So we'd be outside until 10 usually. But in the winter, it's the exact opposite. It's dark. Like I'd be walking home from school very often. It was already starting to get dark. And so in the winter, you're indoors more. So I'm still like connected that way.
I gotta
Like,
take a call really quick.
video games in the winter, being outdoors in the summer.
I don't think I ever got into video games. I mean Mario Kart, but that's different.
Super Mario,
Yeah.
Donkey Kong.
Video games are good for your brain. In fact, I didn't need anyone to tell me this, but I was reliving memories of, I played a game with the guys that we were with. The first night we were there, everyone was at this point pretty twisted, having a good time. And I played a game called What the Fuck Happened.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a video game?
No. This is me.
Oh,
It was me
oh.
telling a story. I'm like, guys, we're going to play a game of What the Fuck Happened. They're like, so they get totally into it. And I start explaining the conditions in which I woke up in the hospital with a grade 3 TBI. And like Eddie's taking notes. He's like, okay. And he's like, oh, what about this? He's like, okay. I'm like,
I think we're still playing that game
yeah,
too.
well, yeah. They were
Yeah.
so disappointed when I didn't have an answer for them at the end. They're like, so what did happen? I'm
You're
like,
like, I
well, I was
really have no
really-
idea. You
really
guys are the
hoping you
lame.
guys-
Maybe it's in his brain somewhere. We just don't know.
I mean,
Someone
y'all both
knows.
blacked out. That's for show.
It was that was an interesting. So this was the first time, like I got into some serious. We played for Dom's promotion, but we didn't complete it because everybody burned it. 18 holes of golf if you don't play is a lot. If you don't regularly play,
Yeah.
but we played 18 holes, and so it was just we were just a couple days ago, and it was a lot of fun. But I told this story, and they're like, "What the fuck?" Like, yeah, it's And then I got Kat and Casey on the phone and FaceTimed them. Like, tell us your parts. And like, it's okay.
I still have PTSD.
But my point in that is they even told me then, like, play video games. I'm like, well, you don't have to fucking tell me twice. Like, that's not a hard one for me, but because it's good for your brain if you have a
Stimulates
concussion
it.
or a TBI.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Which I enjoyed.
I'm
So,
sure.
so Smalls, why don't we talk about what happened? You walked out of the podcast, I guess, while I was gone.
Oh yeah, I absolutely did.
Let's talk about it real quick. What happened?
So I was giving my 2 cents.
Hmm?
I was still trying to be very like, I understand.
Oh, we're playing the game now. What the fuck? Okay.
I understand what happened. And I kind of was like, why am I the only one saying something? So I was like, Molly, what do you think? And she was like, and then she starts to laugh.
I'm like, I really can't understand why we're still talking about this. It's been like 20, 30
So
minutes
what were we
about
talking about? Give me the frame.
a
What happened?
hypothetical situation.
The hypothetical situation was about,
Those are
because
fun.
he
Always.
said topic should be gender warfare.
Yeah.
And I posed the question, who do you think would last longer without their gender counterpart,
Right,
women or
yeah.
men?
You posed the question.
I posed
Yeah.
the question. So it's, I mean, at the end of the day, it's my fault, but whatever.
I blame you, Joe.
So then Isaac has the clips.
But he then started to talk about how if men were here without women, they would still be able to live their lives because they have male dominant roles in engineering, infrastructure. What else did he say? Like firefighting, like all
Yeah.
of these things that women just don't have big dominant
And he
parts
said
in.
women would last a week or 2. I'm being generous.
Yeah.
He literally
week or two?
Like, says, I am. That's even generous.
That's being generous.
And I
1
said,
week
what do you
or
think?
2.
We're going to fall into a corner and just cry until we all die?
A week or two?
Yes.
And like continue to say that these were factual
He
things.
said the facts.
These are
It's
facts.
It's facts.
And I'm listening to him and I'm just like, I'm going to walk out. Like I look at Isaac, I look at Dry, I'm like, I'm just going to walk out of this podcast. There's no point in me staying in this conversation. Like I say it maybe 2 or 3 times, like out, like under
Yeah,
my
you
breath.
were like trying to believe in what you were saying, and then you got up.
And I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry, Frank, but your mind is really, really fucking closed off to underestimate women like this. And then I stormed off, and I enjoyed that. And I'm okay with it. I
Yeah.
lived with that for the last couple
I love
of
it.
days because I could not get through to him in a way where like, okay, if it were flipped, for you to even say that men can live 75 years.
Because I said, so you're telling me that men will be extinct once the
We gotta get him
last
back in here.
child or baby boy dies? And he says, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
There was a show about this. The Men of Children, Children of Men. Oh.
anyways.
So you posed the question,
I
who
posed
could
the
live
question.
longer? So you're having some fun with it already.
Yes,
You're already-
Isaac was involved in the podcast.
I mean, we all then agreed that, hey, no, we are not going to be able to survive without our counterparts in any which way. We agreed on that. We did
Yep.
agree that, yes, currently our situation in life, all of the males right now are in these fields or industries, and women are just not in it for this whatever reason. But it's not like we're not capable of doing it. It's just that's kind of how currently our situation is.
Yeah.
And then
He kind of got caught up
reflected-
in just like making sure we knew that men were superior. And I said, why do you keep saying it? He goes, I never said that. I never said that. And then he goes, what about all the fires that are going on right now? What would you guys do?
if men were not here.
Men and women are different, and they need each other. A
100%.
society, if you want to go society of all men, go no further than Lord of the Flies. Like men will turn on each other, and it will be a whole different.
They will eat each other.
It's a whole other. The balance and design was one for the other, and there is a delicate. Now, men and women play different roles in society, so depending on what kind of catastrophe we're dealing with, there are certain things that would be advantageous to being male versus female. And there are scenarios in which being a female would be advantageous to being male. It would be depending on what you're trying to, what the need is or what you're trying to accomplish. But that's a fun one. But there are interesting things in our society right now. In first world countries, we talk about gender roles because we can. And most of the world, they don't even have the luxury of talking about it, because if your survival is in question, it turns out, which most of the world is, you go right back to define gender roles. There isn't a counterexample to that as a whole. Make sense? So if survival is in question, like, hey, we're all just trying to survive, survival predicates gender roles, meaning men do men shit, women do women shit. In a society in which survival isn't in question, it's like, fuck
Free
all, let's
fall.
explore. Let's
Free
just
for all.
let's see what we can all do and do differently. But here's an interesting thought. Ukraine is at war with Russia right now. There's many examples of this, but Ukraine comes to mind. And we have this strong feminist presence here in first world country. Okay. Women can do what men can do, and blah, 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 blah. Right. Well, guess when Russia goes to war with Ukraine, guess who got sent out of the country?
Women and children.
Women and children. Who didn't get to leave?
Men.
Men. Like that right there, I'd just be like, shut the fuck up. That's insulting to me how little men get respect. And where are the feminists now? Where are the feminists going, no, we want to fight. We want to be part of this. Fuck, I'm out of here. Let's go. That's that kind of stuff that, like, the hypocrisy. So when I hear males starting to stand up for masculinity, to me, what I'm hearing is less that they're trying to attack women and more that they're sick of men being treated like they don't matter or they're not important. And that is happening a ton in our society right now.
In Western society, for sure, it happens a lot.
And it's confusing. That's why we have so many man boys where they're confused. They're being taught that being masculine is a negative thing, and being strong is a negative thing, and being assertive is a negative thing. And so they get lost in it. I think, and that happens in a first world country that has first world problems because survival isn't in question. When survival's back in question, like in Ukraine right now, nobody's fucking arguing about gender roles. No one. Like, hey, fuck yeah. You don't have, as far as I know, maybe I'm wrong, but as far as I know, you don't have women strapping up and dropping into Ukraine. Where you had lots of men who left other countries to go strap up and go fight in Ukraine. Whatever you think of that. So it's like, there is a difference between men and women. And if we pretend that there isn't, we're in much bigger trouble.
And for whatever reason, when you highlight the differences, people think you're saying one superior to the other, and that's not what. Sometimes people do that, but for the most part, it is your prior thought you had rather than the prior thought you had, because men are being trashed consistently, and we're just saying, hey, we're being trashed consistently. We help sustain the world. why are we being trashed, essentially?
That's why the grand resets happen about every 10,000 years, because if consciousness doesn't figure out a way to elevate, it has to reset. Otherwise, this whole fucking thing melts down, which is interesting. I actually am very hopeful that consciousness is going to rise and we're going to bring out the divine masculine, the divine feminine, an expression of balance that we've never seen. So I'm excited about that. But part of it is we got to get over feminine, masculine, like this
completely separate.
Yeah,
Or
they're at best when they're playing together,
and synchronized.
right? And so if you had, I wasn't here for this discussion, but it was a fun one I heard. But if you had a bunch of men and no women, I mean, I know what it's like to hang out with a bunch of men, and
It would be disastrous too.
on a whole other level. It would be if you're like, well, they know how to build shit. Yeah. They know how to kill things. Yeah. But if they don't have the balance, it's like look at like what happens when you have men away from like soldiers who are away from women for 3 months, 6 months, and then they go to mainland or they go into a country. It's like they turn into fucking animals.
Well, where there's most war is where there's a disproportion of men compared to women.
Right.
So if there's too many men in one area and not enough women, there's more war that happens.
100%.
consistently. So
Freud brought this up just to frame this. It's like the human animal is driven by two things: Thanos and Eros. Thanos is death or aggression. Eros is fucking, right? It's fuck or fight, fuck or fight, fuck or fight. And that the male animal, the male animal, if there is no enlightenment, if there is no consciousness, it is one of those two things, and sometimes a weird combo of both. Right? That expression of wanting to either fight or fuck. So if there is no fucking possible,
hold on.
you're only left with one other thing.
Can I just address this, ladies? So I wasn't trying to be disparaging towards women when I said, like, all I was really, the sentiment that I was trying to get out there is that men are important. That's really what, but maybe it came off in the wrong way. But all I was trying to say is like, hey, men are important and people need to acknowledge that we're important. And the thing is, like, if, for example, this is an analogy I think that will make my my point more poignant is if you got rid of all the surgeons on the planet today, men or women, we would be fucked with regards to surgery. Like there would be a lot of patients that would die that they can't get surgery because and they need it in emergency situations. That's not offensive, right? That's not offensive to say that. Well, I'm essentially saying the same thing, but I'm just saying that because men fill these roles more often, it would fuck society if they were gone. Like it would be disastrous. We're looking at just like a few things. There's thousands of things that hold society together, and I can paint a story of how things would go without men, in terms of with one area. Like you could look at like fires. You could look at farming. You could look at logistics. Logistics is fucking extremely complicated.
When you're defining society, though, what do you mean?
I'm talking about the fabric of society where things are held together and people can survive. I'm talking about survival.
A lot of what you're saying, though, seems to be in reference to modern society, which to me the contention argument would be is modern society even good? Is that what we want? Mm-hmm. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, engineering is cool. Uh-huh. Like, I don't know that you need engineers to survive.
I would say
they're helpful.
I would say if the way we live wasn't so integrated with modern society, then I would say yes, that's a valid point. But because it's so fucking integrated, right, with modern technology, like for example, farming, you have to understand how to use the machinery. Like I can't get on a tractor and know how to use it properly, and so that we can grow crops properly. I don't fucking know how to do that. I don't know how to. With regard to logistics, first of all, in terms of logistics, it's not just like you have to think in terms of like, okay, trucks. It's great to go from like one location to another when you're in California, but when you're in somewhere like Alaska, you have to go over ice with trucks, and you have to carry heavy things over ice. And so, in terms of logistics, people die every week by trucks going like across ice because the ice melts
the ice road
and
truckers.
Fucking the trucks go under. So it's like these are dangerous things that have to be considered. And if we got rid of all men, we're talking about like thousands of different types of ways that we could all perish, like thousands. And the when all men are gone, it would be 1 minute before the problems start happening. 1 minute. So the minute one is when people start having to go, oh shit, what the fuck do we do?
Fascinating. And you don't feel like that would be the same if we get rid of all the women? These are such odd conversations to me anyway, but
I think no. I would say we would be fucked as well if we got all of the blue collar workers. If we got so the men would be fucked too.
But how did blue collar workers get dragged into this?
Blue collar workers.
Well, you detail a great argument for men, and I don't disagree. That's part of the wage gap thing that pisses me off. Is like if you actually look at the wage gap, part of it is some of the most high paying jobs women don't do, and they don't want to do. It's not like they're like driving across the fucking ice road in the middle of Alaska is not a job that most women would sign up for. So I get your argument. There are very high paying jobs. They're high paying because they're also very high risk.
Yeah.
That women just don't do, which also impacts this wage gap idea.
Right.
Okay. I get that, but do the same exercise the opposite direction.
Yes.
So,
I just
flip.
mentioned that.
Well, you just mentioned blue collar workers, so maybe I missed what you meant. But like, what happens if all the women suddenly disappear? They tap out, and we're left with a bunch of men.
Yeah,
Take me through that
we'd have
exercise.
more war for sure. There would
More
be
war?
There would be more war. I also don't think that. I mean, if men wanted more war, I think the amount of war that's happening now is probably the same amount of war that would happen if all the women were gone. You know, there may be some exceptions, but like men can go to war and control that aspect of society. So if there's already enough wars on the planet already. I mean, sure, there may be more war because women kind of make men more normal in general. But I'm sure like there would still be good men that would stop or prevent more war from happening. Of course, there's probably some statistic that can prove that if women were gone, all women were gone, there'd be more war. But the point I'm making is the men that aren't blue collar workers, for example, that do construction, that manage the power grids, the power lines, all these things, right? And the some white collar, and then a lot of blue collar. We'd be fucked without blue collar workers for sure. But what I would say is that yes, we would be fucked for a certain amount of time as men if we got rid of all the people managing society and the things that we need to survive. But for sure, I would say we would be the most I would say for men is we'd be less normal, and we wouldn't be able to continue society because we need women to continue like pass on our genes. So I don't see
You should do
when
it.
I say these things, I don't think anything. I'm not making any disparaging marks. I don't think one sex is better than the other, but it's just how it's perceived sometimes. All I'm saying is we have different skill sets, we have different talents, and men are important. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So, but I would.
You
say
are
yes.
consistent in your value structure.
So, what I would say is yes, there would be a certain subset of the population that are men. If all women were gone, would be fucked. And then there's also a certain subset of the population that are men. That if we got rid of the blue collar worker men, the men would be fucked too. So, just like the way I explain it is just if we got rid of all the surgeons on the planet, everybody would fuck with regard to surgery.
Right.
Just like if we got rid of all the engineers.
It's a fascinating thought exercise, I guess, but I think it's the integration of everyone. Yeah, it's like the special
course.
sauce is the integration of everyone.
100%. I agree with that. 1,000%. All we want is all most men want is just the acknowledgement that hey, men are important.
Respect.
Which is in Western society, men are bashed consistently. Oh, you can't be masculine. Toxic masculinity is this thing that's consistently, promoted. So it's like, dude, just acknowledge that you may need us. That's it. We need you too. You don't see men going, fuck, we don't need women. We don't like promote that. We say, hey, you need us, we need you. But then for some reason when men say you need us, the women go, oh fuck this, like we don't need you. We can make our own money and shit like that. It's like why are you bringing those points up? We're not even mentioning those things. We just want to be acknowledged as important in society. That's it.
I would offer potentially we got to this place because that was the ask in the woman's heart. We just want to be acknowledged that we're important to society.
Right.
And if you look at history, it's hard to make an argument that we've been, as a race, human race, been very kind to women.
I agree. But to make that relevant to one particular person, you'd have to extrapolate the last 5,000 years to this 100 years. And this 100 years has been the best, or maybe 50 years.
When we act or
50
err, we
too.
only cause more error, right? If the wound doesn't get dealt with. But
Right.
to me, that's if you were the energetic shift that needs to happen, where men can empathetically understand that women have been undervalued for a very long time, and they're sick of. There's a lot of women I coach that'll say they feel the pressure the other way, where it's like they know they're feeling like, well, if I don't have a career, I'm not successful. And they're pissed off about that because they're like, I don't want to have a fucking career. I want to raise a family. I want to have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Well, yeah, that's definitely a sentiment.
but
for
the
sure.
the argument of, so something we got to get away from as a society is stop pitting people against each other. People groups. It's like identity politics is really, really big right now. And if I believed in conspiracy theorists, if I believed in a grandmaster, this would be a fucking good way to do it, because it's smoke and mirrors. You keep everybody really busy over here fighting over all this petty shit.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you don't even understand what's actually happening, because you get into all of the identity politics and the sniveling and the.
What breaks my heart is you have like different like gender constraints of like what society puts on people. So like my heart breaks for women that they just want a career and they don't want a family, and they just want a career, and that's what their heart says to them. Like, I just want to work and I want to be passionate about my job. But then society goes, well, why aren't you starting a family? My heart breaks for that person, because then there's like a contention there. There's like why are you judging me for who I want to be, you know? And then there's also contention on, which I think is less common, I believe, the men that just want to be like, I just want to raise a family. I just want to be a good father. I don't need to be a millionaire, you know? I don't. But then they're looked down upon too. So
To be fair, and I'll just go back to this, and I'd love to hear what you guys think. These are all first world problems. The fact that we live in a society where you get to pretend and figure out what you want to be, and am I aligned with my heart? It's like, Jesus fucking Christ. Part of me is like, how do we not notice that in of itself is a luxury?
Mm-hmm.
For most of human existence, that wasn't even something you got to decide. Right? So to me, it's somewhat of a compliment that we're here. It also is an argument to why maybe it takes us so long to get here, and then we don't stay here very long, because we are disastrous when we don't have defined roles. It's a fucking mess. It was much easier when it's like, no, fuck, this is what I'm doing, because this is all there is. It's like when we finally get to a point where it's like, pick your own adventure, things really start to get fucked up. And I mentioned this, I think, 3 times in the last 4 or 5 podcasts, but I'm going to mention it again. Go watch Matrix 2 and listen to the discussion that Neo has with the architect. And he literally, you can go find it on YouTube, just that conversation. And it is fucking brilliant. He literally says, he goes, the first world we built, the first world we built it was peaceful and everything was great and you could be whatever you wanted to be, and humans fucking rejected it. Yeah. It didn't work. We had to create pain and suffering and contention, and then you guys fucking thrive. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of the human condition. Yeah. Like when we have the old expression, idle hands are the devil's playground. It's like when the shit that we get to worry about changes to where we get to decide what our identity is and play around with what our gender is and what our sexuality is, and like, fuck, that's all great. But when you take that so seriously that you're destroying the underpinnings of everything that came before that, it's like, this is the beginning of the end. This is when this shit goes. It's one of 2 options. We're either going to fucking elevate through this and figure out how to unite and get through it, or we're going to reset this bitch and start over again. I'm positive, more on the positive side, that we're going to raise consciousness, but this is the shit that makes me laugh. What do you guys think? Yes.
I mean, I'm in agreement to having both sides, both masculine and femininity, in both male and female. I think that once, like you talked about, raising consciousness and synchronizing these 2 pieces, and one is being seen, like, or like males are seeing women for who they are in both sides and vice versa. I think it is important, especially in women, especially with women, because again, like I was talking about it in our Wednesdays podcast, as far as like women empowerment, men can see it as a negative if women are being bossy or dominant or aggressive, assertive. But to me, I'm just like, no, they're just taking a stand in what either they believe in, or like even if they wanted to have a career, why is that being looked down upon if that is their life's work? What if their career is not just raising a family, but helping others create their family trees, right? So like they see purpose in just living in that way, or they can do the latter. Like, why does it have to be a double standard in our society to have women just like raise families, or even men? Like, why is it a double standard for men if they wanted to just raise a family and be a good father? Like, why do we see society like that? I am very hopeful, per usual, that the human race at this point can be at least aware or create awareness in their conscious mind and unconscious mind, because I still very much believe that we are all connected. I still very much believe that as energy, since we're all energy, that we have to work together to make it all happen. Like if we don't work together, we will explode and corrupt and war everywhere. Like I definitely think that we just have to see the other counterpart as almost like, I don't want to say I'm a feminist at all, but as equal in that way, or know where you play your roles. Like even in a partnership, I think that we define, or I like having help on both sides. Like I love and enjoy that my man, Charles, he will be able to do the laundry or do dishes, even if I'm not there, or I can do the latter. Or I'm like even thinking about if something is broken, I can fix it myself because I can. I have tools. My dad gave me tools so that I can do these things. And I think it's just fair for each other to show up for each other.
Yes. What do you think, Dre?
What do you think, Dre?
I think that was very well said, Molly. I agree that you can't have society with one or the other. They need to be together. And yeah, I'm not a feminist either, but I do see that there needs to be equality in not just the household, but also in work. Sabs, you had a great point that this is only a result of women asking to be looked at as more than just a cleaner or a mother or whatever. Right. So I think that that's the reason why you have that sentiment, because you want us to know that men are important, and they fucking are. I wouldn't be the person I am without the men in my life. I don't think any of us would be. So I just think that you feel that way, but we also still feel that way, no matter how many freedoms and, things we've been given, we still feel that way because we are still looked down on. So I just want to share that, because I know that you were very frustrated, and so was I, so was Molly.
Your frustration was with when I said 2 weeks.
Oh, 100%.
That was a frustration.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I get that frustration. But I mean, like, we can look at just one area, like fires.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Did you complete your thought?
Sorry, complete your thought. Sorry.
He's giving me another round of thoughts now. I shared the information that you had mentioned, that example of firefighting. And I explained to you that California, amongst a small other group of states, have paid firefighters. Everywhere else, it's volunteer. Right. I had shared that example with Kat, and she said, you know how many of my girlfriends are actually volunteer firefighters in Texas? So although, yes, majority are men in a lot of these trades.
Texas is a whole other animal.
We live in California, where things, I think, are very different compared to a lot of the rest of the United States and the world. And although, yes, men are a majority in those trades, there are still women in them that we would figure it out. There are other aspects of life that if women were disappearing, there would be a lot more child deaths because of the fact that women are the ones that nurture, feed.
Of course.
Those types of things. So there's a lot of trades that you were like, what would you guys do with fires? It's like we would figure it out.
Time constraint.
Oh, okay.
Time constraint.
Temporal.
No,
I thought you
temporal
were
means
referring
time.
to the brain. I was
No. Time constraint.
Got it.
Because minute one, people start dying. It's not like, oh yeah, everything's gonna be peach and like peaches and cream for like 2 weeks, and then you guys are like, you're gonna figure it out. Yes, you could figure it out within like 3 months, 6 months, but you don't have 3 months, 6 months. You have literally from the minute that all the men are gone, people start dying. Meaning there's 1,000 fires a day, 1,000 fires a day, 1,000. So yes, could that be cut in half if there was less of the population? Absolutely. But immediately you'd have to have, and there's only 10% of the workforce is in firefighting is women. So you'd immediately have to figure something out with regards to that. And that's just one area. That's one area. There's thousands. Logistics, farming, hydraulics, power grids, power plants. There's the manufacturing.
I think your point is well heard and understanding. I think if there was one takeaway from this discussion, I'm glad we got back to, is that both men and women
are important.
Want to feel, well, we know that.
Yeah.
They want to know that they're valued, and they want to be treated like they're valuable. Right. And that's this. We got to get to a point where the conversation is less about men and women. And Molly brought up a point subtly, but you brought it up. Sometimes you have more masculine energy in a female body, and sometimes you have more feminine energy in a masculine body. 100%. It's learning how to love and accept each other and understand the value that everyone brings, and not some woo-woo bullshit. Everyone gets a fucking star, but like there is real value there, and you got to understand that. And like,
of course.
That's the important part. So I hear the heart of you're trying to say, hey, men are important, and I know why you're feeling that way, but I also don't have a problem understanding why women are going, hey, fucking women are important. Right? And you look out history, it's been rough, but I got to go.